Hello, everyone, and welcome to You've Retired, Now What? I'm here to help you navigate through these waters of deciding what's the rest of my life going to look like? What's my next phase going to look like? What have I not done that I wanted to do? I'm your host, Michael Kiffmeyer, and each week on this podcast, I give you tips and tricks, processes, and methodologies that can help you through your thought process. So we got a whole lot to talk about. Let's dive in. So let's set the record straight. No matter what your age is, you can retire with dignity and with a healthy nest egg if you work at it. So many people believe that if they just work 40 years, they should be able to retire without actually pulling any data and looking at the numbers. Then once those people hit retirement and their Social Security checks are barely enough to survive on, it's uh-oh, they're stressed, angry, and hopeless. Needless to say, many Americans are facing retirement crisis, and a lack of planning could put you next in line for this bleak ride. Seniors in the U.S. still have mortgages, car loans, and Parent Plus loans, and many believe the government or their adult kids will swoop in and save the day. Well, it's not going to happen. And if you want something to blame for this grim reality, you can point fingers at inflation, skyrocketing housing costs, widely expensive healthcare, rising interest rates, government mismanagement, corporate greed, just to name a few. And the list doesn't stop there. Now that we've got that out of our system, let's look at the one factor you can control in this whole mess. And that factor is you. Welcome back to the podcast, You've Retired, Now What? I'm your host, Michael Kiffmeyer. And I do this weekly on every Wednesday morning. I'm thinking of, doing some more and, kind of give the intensity factor an uptick. And the basic reason I'm thinking of doing that is this, that we're suffering here in 2024 record inflation. We got in the United States, we got a presidential election happen in just about 3 weeks. And who knows what's going to happen next? So one has to prepare themselves, prepare your family about the high cost of living. So today's topic for many of us hits right at home. I don't care if you're in the 30s, your 40s, your 50s, or you've just recently retired. And once you hit 60, time just flips and you ask yourself, okay, I didn't quite plan for this. There's emotional ups and downs I have to plan for. There are financial plans that I thought I had in place, but they're not quite exactly where I want them to be. And you got to explore the underlying causes and discuss practical steps so you can avoid taking those same mistakes. So there's about 5 most common regrets that people have. So let's start with a survey from an organization called Bankrate. And Bankrate highlighted some of the top regrets that Americans have on their retirement planning. Guess what the number one regret is? More than 50% of the Americans wish they had started setting money aside sooner. I got to tell you, I was no different. Thought I was always going to work, probably until the day I died, because that's the way I was brought up. But you get to the point that one gets burned out and you can say, you know what, I need to kind of rewrite my script. And you don't save enough to retire. I scrambled quick and got myself straightened out, but I'm giving you these tips so that you don't have to face some of the same dilemmas, because, things happen. You got health concerns. Things happen. There's a catastrophe. How about these hurricanes that just hit Florida, North Carolina, and all up in the southeastern area of the United States? You think all those folks were planning on that? I say not. they've been through hurricanes before, but especially not the one they have. And in a state like North Carolina, which I have visited often, they're up in the hills. Well, how's the water going to affect them? Well, they found out it sure did. It just turned that whole state on its ear. So you one has to plan for increased life expectancy and rising health care cost as well. Many retirees find they underestimate how much they need to sustain their lifestyle. If you've listened to my podcast at any length of time, you have found out that we are living longer. And one of the biggest concerns people have is they're going to outlive their savings. Could that happen? It certainly could happen. So taking on too much debt during your working years, um, folks plan to prioritize retirement accounts. And they always thought, well, someday, someday. And let's be careful on another thought process that we all have. Every day you flip on that television, or you're in your iPhones, or you're in your Androids, your tablets, and whatever else, you're getting bombarded constantly with messages, messages, messages. I can recall back when I was a wholesaler to major department stores across this United States, and we never thought that would change. Well, guess what? It sure changed. And careers change. So all these things come to mind while I'm talking to you here, that you're going to have to plan for the unknown. You need to prioritize your retirement accounts. You need to prioritize your 401ks or your IRAs. And I'm hoping everybody I'm speaking to here, which is mostly the retirees, that you've had a professional planner that's helped you with your retirement plans. However, if you think you can sit it and forget it, you better forget it, because this economy doesn't go like this. It goes like this and this and this. And as you heard me say earlier, we're going to have a new administration here the first of the year in 2025. We don't know what that's going to bring. You got to plan for that. Some people even regretted saving too conservatively, especially during periods when they could have earned more in higher risk investments. These are some thoughts that I want you to consider if you haven't retired yet. And if you have retired yet, don't you need to visit with a financial planner at least once a year, if not every 6 months. Laws change. New governments want to, I hate to say it, they want to find a way to get to your savings or income any way they can. And it's your job and your family's job to prevent this from happening, because ultimately what goes on? Ultimately, it's going to affect your future and how you're going to live. So you probably might be questioning, why do people make these mistakes? How do they fall into these financial traps? Well, one of the biggest problems is procrastination. You've heard before, analysis by paralysis. By not doing something, you can hurt yourself just as much as doing something and make the wrong decision. It's easy to put off saving for retirement, don't get me wrong, because we're in a consumer-driven world and we want great things, and there's no reason why we shouldn't have it. However, younger people, especially younger people, they feel there's plenty of time to catch up. Well, we're on the face of this earth for a finite amount of time, and every day should be lived to its fullest, even after you retire. Because if you don't, you're going to find yourself in a difficult situation, because all of a sudden that catch-up time has caught up to you and you don't have enough saved. Another lack of financial saving is a lack of financial literacy. I used to be a teacher in public schools, in both junior and high school. And you know what? I wish someone would have had a class then that would have told us a little bit. I took a class called business, kind of like business facts, et cetera, et cetera. But they didn't show us simple things like here's your checking book, here's how you do it, et cetera, et cetera. If you're like me or like many of my colleagues and different clients, you're going to hear that no one taught them. They had to learn through osmosis. That's a bad way to find out things. Now, the good news is, even if you're behind the financial eight ball right now, there's so much information on the internet and YouTube and your electronic devices. You can research the information for yourself. Don't expect someone to make this decision for you. You are you are the person that needs to take control of this. You can't wait for others to make your decision for you as well. And so the lifestyle of inflation, as people made more, they bought more. And one of the things you learn when you retire is the fact that your habits don't change. You're going to have to make a conscious effort to make your habits change. An example of this is, let's say somebody was spending on the average between house and expenses and everything else, let's say $10,000 a month. Then they retired and said, well, I'll cut my spending back about $10,000 less than I was spending, or $5,000 less than I was spending. Well, let me ask you this question. When's the last time you've been to a Costco or a Walmart and you think I'm only going to buy a few things? These retailers are smart. They lure you in. The next thing you know, you're walking out of that store with a $300-400 bill. And you're sitting there saying, okay, I'll make it up next time, and I'll make it up the next time. But normally people don't do it. They're used to spending and living a certain way. And it takes a real effort to cut back and to change your habits and your lifestyle. So I got about three clients that I have consulted with, and they've told me some regrets they had. First of all, I had a guy by the name of Gary, and Gary says, I wish I had started saving in my early 20s when I was younger. I always thought I had plenty of time to catch up, but then life got in the way. And isn't that the truth? Especially if you have a family and you got to support, a whole household. So now Gary's having a problem struggling to build a sufficient retirement fund. So he's got to kind of re-engineer his thinking, saying, what am I going to do now? Next, there's a lady by the name of Suzanne, and she told me I underestimated healthcare costs. I haven't seen them gone down lately, they being healthcare costs. They've always done um, everything and they drive them up. Politicians always tell us they're going to take care of us. Well, don't bank on it because on the other side, you got the politicians saying that, you got the pharmaceutical companies driving, and cost is going up. Now, Medicare will cover part of it. It won't cover it all. So you better have a good handle on what is supplemental insurance going to cost. I can tell you it's an astronomical price. And if you are, let's say, 60 years old right now and you don't have any um, money put aside for healthcare costs, or what, heaven forbid, you'd have to go into a long-term facility or a nursing home, they'll suck you dry. And it's just very, very expensive. And if you don't have something by the time you're 60, yeah, you can get it. If you want to pay somewhere in the vicinity of anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 a month, when you should have bought it is way back when you probably in your 20s and your 30s. But shoulda, woulda, coulda doesn't cut it. So what are you going to do now? and you're going to have to make a plan for it. Hey guys, real quick, if you've been struggling to answer the question, now what, after you've retired, I'd like to invite each and every one of you to my free Now What challenge that can help you reignite your spark, give yourself a sense of direction, try to decide exactly what it is you want to do in this next phase of your life. People are very smart and they get worn out. I know that. But eventually they know they got to do something more. And you need a purpose to get up and out of that bed each and every morning. I have tools, processes, and methodologies that I'm going to share with you in this challenge that I believe will help you clear your mind and decide exactly what you're going to do in this next phase of your life. I had another gentleman, he underestimated healthcare cost as well. And he was one of those that thought between Social Security and Medicare, they take care of that. And he was also on Medicaid. No, it'll cover a good chunk, but unless you have a substantial healthcare plan, it's just prices always go up. They don't go down. We're even finding that out lately here in the state of California because we have a lot of forest fires. They being insurance companies, they're not even insuring some of these homes right into the fire zone. So what's a person going to have to do? Well, they're going to have to pay through their teeth to get something they can afford. They're going to have to scramble. So why I share all this with you is I want you to have a good feeling about, look, maybe I didn't do everything I should, but I got enough time. If you're 60, 65 years old and just now retiring, you've heard me say before, we're going to live another 25 to 30 years, God willing, and our health holding up. So you got time to fix this now. Don't sit there and know a tsunami's headed straight for you and do nothing, because the results can be disastrous. I had another gentleman tell me he was too conservative in his investments. He wanted to play safe. Well, safe doesn't get you to where you need to be once you retire. So you need to constantly stay afloat. You don't have to become a financial expert, but you need to have enough information at your fingertips so you can make a conscious decision. What will do me in the long run, and what can I change? So I tell you these stories because they illustrate that why specifics may differ, the underlying themes remain consistent. And that underlying theme is delaying action, underestimating costs, and missing out on potential growth is going to cost you in the long run. It should come as no surprise to any of you that 54% of the workers that haven't even calculated how much they need in retirement. And according to U.S. Census Bureau, by the year 2034, there'll be more adults 65 and older than kids that are 18 and under for the first time in United States history. That means more people will be withdrawing the Social Security checks on a monthly basis. But what if those Social Security checks are not there? You know that Social Security was designed to help somebody in retirement, but it was only supposed to be about 40% of your income. On top of that, Social Security came about to make older workers retire so younger workers can take those jobs. But a funny thing happened on the way to that plan. And that funny thing, which is not so funny to many of us, is the fact that Congress says at this rate, Social Security funds will be getting drained. And by 2035, people will only receive 83% of their benefits versus if they retired today. And And here's the other real fact. Older workers are working longer. And why are they doing that? Yeah, they like to relax, but everything costs too much. Like I said earlier, they got car payments, they got house payments. Things you can consider doing is maybe downsizing your house. I did this back in 2017. I didn't need that large house any longer. And you know what you find out? Over a 30, 40, even 50-year time span, you have all this stuff. And then you say, what are we going to do with all this stuff? Well, and that becomes a problem within in itself. So by the time a 1-year-old today is getting ready to retire, who knows what Social Security will look like? I've heard politicians on both sides of the coin. They want to up the retirement age. They want to they're always looking for ways to get money, and that's why the past 10 to 20 years, financial planners have been very encouraging of trying to help people. You need to build your own 401k IRA or whatever other retirement vehicle that can protect yourself. And so why should you have to worry about this? Um, I've got my thoughts, but when Congress is looking for funds, they're going to find a way to go to it. And then all of a sudden, you know, the money's not going to be there. Recently, we found out these poor folks that have been affected by these hurricanes, they were denied funds because the funds were spent on other resources, especially people coming from foreign lands, and then that emergency fund for the government to help in disasters, it was tapped. And so now what are they doing? They're doing the same thing I'm imploring you to do. That is, you need to scramble and say, how can I right my ship? If you're approaching retirement on a rudderless ship, you need to correct it um, as soon as you can. So you heard me tell you that Social Security was only designed to replace 40% of your income. However, more than 90% of the people are in the United States are relying on it as their monthly income. In comparison, the average American monthly income after taxes is 45, $47 and 50 cents a month. That's what the average American made in their working years. But the average Social Security check is, as of August in 2024, was $1,784 a month. Well, there's about what, almost a $3,000 gap there. So, and if you're only planning on your Social Security to help you survive, you're going to be eating a lot of rice and beans for the rest of your life. Um, while this meal can be great to get you out of debt, I can assure you it's going to get old real fast. So you need to make plans now. So, what are some of the practical steps that we all can take to avoid this regret? And I don't know about you, but folks that I've talked to, my friends, my family, and myself, there's nothing worse than living in regret. I always like the old adage is we need to look like an airplane pilot. And an airplane pilot, they only see the window in front of them. They don't constantly look behind them because that's not going to get them to their final destination. So some of the things you need to do is you need to start saving early. And if you had saved, say, just $200 a month by the age of 25, you'd have had $500,000 at the age of 65. If you're still working and you're contemplating retirement, you need to maximize your retirement plans. You know, take advantage of any of their employer match programs, and just know in the long run, you need to uh, look out for your own retirement, because I don't know if the government can always be counted on to do it. You need to create a realistic budget and stick to it. You need to monitor your spending. You gotta really curb the impulse buying. You gotta ask yourself when you go to buy something, do I want this or do I need this? And if you've collected as much stuff as I did for the past 40 to 50 years, chances are 9 times out of 10, you don't really need it. So it takes a different meaning once you're retired and your income has decreased. You need to invest wisely. If your retirement plan will still let you invest, and you have the funds to do so, I'd encourage you to do that. We already talked about healthcare costs. When we get in our 50s and 60s, stuff starts to happen. The body starts to fail. Our immune systems aren't as strong as they were, which opens us up to more diseases and different illnesses. You need to adjust and readjust your plan on a regular basis. You've heard me say before, I know everyone wants to set it and forget it. This life doesn't work that way. Tell me anybody's just hit a nice even keel. And I will tell you, I will guarantee you, if I sat down with that person and said everything just went smooth, they either inherited a lot of money, they were very wise in investment, but there was a bump in the road somewhere, and they had to find a way to readjust it. So I had said earlier, and I'll encourage you again, you need to seek professional advice. You can't just sit it and forget it. Laws change. So financial regrets are all too common, but they don't have to define your future. Once you retire, one of the other things that you may or may not have planned for, this is a life transition, and you need to work on you. You had thought about what you want in your retirement. Now you're here. Why don't we start to structure a program that can help you get to exactly where you want to be? Even small changes can lead to significant improvement down the road. So I want to thank you for tuning into You've Retired, Now What? A weekly podcast, and I hope you found today's episode feel more empowered and prepared for your future. If you're interested in this podcast, please share it with others, and any of your friends, colleagues. They might be in the same position you are. I would like it if you leave a review for this episode. I'd also like you to reach out to me if I can help in the future. And I want to share one last thing with you. I've talked about it for a few weeks now, but it looks like I'm finally going to ready to do this at the end of October, 1st of November. And that is, I'm going to run a 5-day challenge. And it's going to be called You've Retired, Now What Challenge, okay? And many people, after that first 2 years, which we like to call the honeymoon years, and the honeymoon years are simply you do what you want and you don't have a structure. People need structure or they drift like a rudderless ship. And you don't want to be rudderless. You want your life to mean something. So if you have an interest, I'll keep listening to this podcast. I'll put the link in here, hopefully by the end of this week. Keep a positive outlook, because let's face it, this is an opportunity you had to focus on you. Thank you. Hey, before we conclude this episode, I'd like each and every one of you to know that your thoughts, your dreams, and what you would like to get out of this podcast is valuable to me. My whole goal and my mission is to serve you like I have served others. For years, I had taught major corporations how to use learning as a competitive advantage. I want to do the same for you. So please leave your notes or reach out to me, and I want to gear this podcast towards your wants and needs and help you as much as I can. Again, this is Michael Kiffmeyer, and you've listened to You've Retired, Now What? I want to thank each and every one of you for listening.